being so busy, they don't take the time to address these issues. So it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
And whose place is it to address those issues?
The manager of whoever the complaint's on.
Well, or is she? Why is she not taking care of it?
Yeah, well, and
manager.
there could be different managers, you know. She would, the GEM would be at the top, but there's other managers below that would also do disciplinary actions, but across the board, no one really does.
And they're not doing their job.
Mm-mm.
And who is in place to question those people that are not doing their job? I know what you're saying, because like if I have somebody that's my supervisor is not telling me what I need to do and I just do what I want to, you know, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have certain things, they have policies to follow and regulations and everything. So I do know, reading some of this, this lady that resigned, she'd been there a long time. That way, when you're working with the public, even the public, you know, the public that comes in to play the games, they know what's going on because they know, they feel it. They know these people that are workers and everything. They're talking and everything. And sometimes some of them will just talk to the customers and let them know what's going on. And the customers don't want to hear anything like that. The customers are coming there to relax and play and whatever. So I just feel like, you know, if there is a problem with people not working together, somebody's got to take over and resolve that problem. So, because, you know, you go to another casino and sometimes you hear people talking, oh, I like going to this place because of the customer service, or I like it because you're treated this way and that way. And I know we've always had poor customer service, and that takes training. And so you can't put anybody in the customer service position if they're not people person. Mm-hmm. You have to work with the people. And so, you know, it's so much to working in a casino. And I don't mean for workers to stand there and talk 15, 20 minutes to a customer, you know, just walk around and make sure. And even security places that I've been are in our casino, I would see the securities standing in a group. I watch them and watch it. They'd be there like 10, 15 minutes. What if something happened in the back? How do they know what happened? You go to another casino and those securities are walking up and down the aisle all afternoon or the whole 8 hours they're there. So things like that, and the training is what we're liking to also. Mm-hmm. So whoever's in charge and have to do that, they have to do that. But the information is not getting to the people it's supposed to get to, and it's not being resolved. There's got to be something done. So I hope that it will take place, because it just can't go on. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Representative Shaw.
One question I have is, we've got an interim GM, right? Okay, does that interim GM draw the same pay as a GM?
Yes.
Why? Because they're not qualified to be GM. Why are they getting paid the same? I should have asked that of Ms. Miller this morning. No, but I missed it until it just came up a minute ago and something popped in my head about salary. When I was working for the state and I was acting as a supervisor, I had the same pay as I did before I was in that supervisor. They just asked me if I'd supervise for a month or 2 months until they filled the slot. And I said yes. If I'd drawn $40,000 a year here, that interim slot, I still drawed $40,000. I didn't go from $40,000 to $103,000. That's what it sounds like to me. And maybe we do need to run day to day. I don't know, but that's so. That's why I need to ask that question. If you get the same pay for not knowing nothing, or because she said she's not experienced in all areas. I've been hearing, like I said, personnel areas. She's not very conducive to the workforce or the setting and stuff like this. So why I needed to ask that, if that interim GM is drawing the same money. If nothing else, they should, they might increase her salary or his salary, maybe $10,000 a year, but not.
Representative Billy?
What is the most, majority of the complaints out there?
The morale is real low. People don't even want to come to work. We have call-ins that are just a ridiculous amount of call-ins. And the biggest complaint is management. More people are leaving because of management than anything, because with management not doing their job, that's what's allowing all the favoritism, the gossiping, just everything that's going on and getting worse. It's just snowballing, is mainly due to managers not doing their job.
Okay, next question is.
I want to say something here as far as, the HR is concerned. You have supervisors, these managers have supervisors, so anything that's directly asked of you that you're not really, the person to answer that question, you may know something about it, but you have a supervisor as well. And these directors that, whether they're doing their job or not doing their job on a daily basis, that's not your call, is it? Is it?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I've asked to be able to step in and, and
Okay.
help out, but
Yeah, so it's hard to answer these questions, that's been directed at, by the council when you're not even the supervisor of those people that may or may not be doing their job. That takes performance evaluations and so forth of that nature by the people who's over them. So we'll go on from here. Representative, did you have one more
Yes,
question?
I did. So what you're saying, Chair, is there could be repercussions for her being here?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that,
That sounds like what you're saying, sir.
it may sound like that's what I'm saying, but I'm clarifying to you, Representative Billy, that there's things that she actually, she's not in charge of, but she's just doing it from an evaluation point of view too, just like you answer your questions from people speaking with you and from the complaints that's coming in.
I beg your pardon, she's the acting GM now that the GM is not there. She's been put in charge, so she can answer those questions. So without retaliation, that's what I was going to come back with, because she spoke out. Is she going to be retaliated
I have no
against?
idea. I'm not involved in
Okay,
gaming
if
to
that
the
happens,
extent.
what do we do? What do you do?
Actually, executive doesn't have direct supervision over gaming at this time, and I think
Well,
everybody knows that.
That's true. So what you can do is give that person a write-up or suspend them. That's part of your job to look out for what this council can't go do day to day.
Actually, you can't do that, and I can't do it because of the tribal code that's in place now. We switched it back to a board to oversee, gaming activities.
What do you mean we can't do that? This council is the governing body of the Seminole Nation. That includes gaming.
Do you have your gaming license?
Huh?
Do you have your gaming license?
No, I don't have
Can you get
one.
involved directly in?
I have been.
No, I'm asking right now, do you have your gaming license?
No.
Does anyone on this council have their gaming license? I do. Well, your gaming license for the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma? Okay, then whatever tribe you have your gaming license.
Well, how did those people get those jobs sitting up there on that horse and looking down at me now? Because I seated them right here. We put that board in place right here on this council. We didn't have to have a gaming license to seat them on that board.
No, because it's under code that we actually
okay,
nominate and confirm.
Under code, so you put them on there. That doesn't mean that we don't have the right to suspend for no confidence. And we've done it many a time, Lewis, and you know it. There's no need in trying to evade that.
I'm just saying that when we closed the casinos, and you're well aware of this, that, we was the Seminole Nation Development Authority at that time. So council actually was very active in making decisions in gaming. We all had to have a gaming license.
Yeah.
And
at
that's
one
just,
time.
and that's the federal law. That's not just me speaking out of the,
I
way
understand that,
beyond.
but the thing is though.
Representative Billy still has the
because
floor.
Representative Billy and that this council are asking this lady those questions. I'm trying to protect her rights. They say they got a whistleblower, though they don't. They got an at will. I don't like you, so you at will out the door. So we need to do something to protect our employees. That's one of the reasons nobody will do a write-up on anybody else, because we don't have reasonable laws to protect those people.
On the
Chair,
go- on the
Chair,
go-
point of order.
Yeah.
Mr. Billy had the floor.
Representative Billy?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Per Title 8, it does say removal. It says chief may suspend a member from exercising duties and powers until a vote by the general council to remove the member occurs. Member may be removed by the vote of general council for inefficiency, neglect of duty, and there's other stuff on. But that's Title 8.
I'm not sure if you're looking at the right code. The code changed several times over the course of a period of time, and it's not updated.
I yield the floor.
Representative Yesleth.
Well, I was going to ask you a question, and you answered it with, you do have an open door with people coming in, but if you ever saw anything or heard or even trying to follow up, you do, which is good. You answered, said you've tried to get involved. Every facility and every program we have has policy, procedures, rules, guidelines, and that's the problem we run into, not just with our tribe, but other tribes. We hire people who, with good intentions, will do that, but come in and see that everything's been running amok under other people, that they either start doing it or they do fear for their jobs. And that's our problem. That's why a lot of our own people, not just Seminole Nation, but others, can't make it outside of their own tribes or other tribes. And we should not be doing that. We should be, we're here to serve the people at all capacities of whatever position we're in. But we can't do that if we're always just fighting internally and within our own selves. And I get it. I understand now too I'm not saying as a warning, but that's how I took it, that maybe you shouldn't have been called up here. I think that's going to be in the eyes on everybody else to watch to see what happens. But at the same time, the board is here. The board was here. If they see this, hear this, they know. There's repercussions for everybody, and somebody should be following up on these. There should be a point in time where somebody has to say, I'm going to be the one to do it, and do it. There are several employees, a lot of us in here have family that work, not just families, we know everybody else. So to say there's two sides to every story, and you've got 5 family members in there in different areas, in different casinos telling you the same thing that's happening, you can't say there's 2 sides to every story. And that's why we have a lot of people who don't want to come to work and who are leaving. And of course, we can't expound on anything within the letter or anything with that, but at the same time, we are aware of what's going on, and something needs to be done. So,
Well, I think you got the right people here, with the chairman of the board. Okay. If there's no further questions, Representative Cootie? Well, sometimes the magical wand don't, anoint someone because somebody's in charge while somebody's on vacation. Her specialty right now is HR. And so, there's somebody that, unfortunately, they probably don't have another person that can step up, and they thought maybe that at least she is, in her professional capacity, could at least, keep things in order till I'm gonna think that, that there's gonna probably be an issue that she has to call whoever's on vacation and say, hey, listen, we got this issue here. You know, you don't think when Chief Palmer and myself is on travel for some reason, you think our phones are just turned on mute? No way. They keep going, and there's things we have to do because there's somebody, if we're both gone, obviously the treasurer is an officer of the tribe as well. But the thing of it is people still have to call us 24 hours a day. I mean, everybody knows that. You as a council member gets called from time to time, not just 8 to 5. But that's what I'm saying about. She's probably in charge till she gets back. But there's no way she probably, perhaps, as an HR, if that's her specialty, can do general management. And she may be just the higher tier person as a director that could take that position. I don't know. I don't know what governed the decision for. I'm just saying there's some things that, like, who's not doing their job? I don't know that she can answer that because the supervisor of that person would know that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If she's not in charge of day-to-day, that's what we're talking about is day-to-day operation and what's happening. So if she's not in charge and can't answer anything, why do we have her up here? The person that left her in charge.
Yeah, that's probably
should have
something you
said,
should have asked yourself before you ask her to stay over during the lunch period. Is that all the questions?
Yeah, no, it's not right.
Well, it's true. Okay, is this all the questions for Ms. Crenshaw? Okay, thank you, Ms. Crenshaw. Yes, is this a question? Okay. HPO, now we're into the directors now, and I liked what you said. We got to protect our employees. I like that statement there, Representative Shaw. She has a microphone.
Hello, for those of you who may not know who I am, my name's Ted Underwood, and I direct the HPO currently. The HPO's primary purpose is to research, to document, to archive, and to expose or exhibit those facts, historical facts, in a Native perspective. Because we get all kind of history from all different kind of people, but Seminole people or Native people. And so it's important that we look at, all of these facts and present it in a way that it's understood by our own community. Education is very important for the HPO. There's a real need to educate people about the history of the Seminole and the culture and the language, the lifestyle, and all those things that they either forgot because it is fading away, or they never received it in a household when they were growing up. I was fortunate to grow up in the 50s and came of age in the 60s, and there was a lot of culture in the community then. There was a cohesiveness where people came together for a lot of different reasons. Worship was one of them. They came to church, and they had camp houses back then, and they would stay in those camp houses for days. They would have church for 3 or 4 days, and all of that's gone. But when that left, well, so did a lot of the teaching and a lot of the language, a lot of the culture. And
Okay,
so,
Ted, thank you for that introduction. I think there might be specific questions that they may have for you.
okay. Well,
Okay.
I was trying to get a perspective and then take some questions, but I'll take any questions you have.
Representative Emerton still has the floor, then Representative Cootie. Representative Emerton still has the floor.
Yes, I understand that you guys, the Historic Preservation Office had 2 meetings that fell through. Can you tell me what happened on that? Because I think a lot of the council would like to know what the Historic Preservation Office does and has, And if you guys had meetings, what happened? Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, I have a hearing deficiency, and that's why you find me always kind of creeping up on the ones that's talking so I can hear, and I don't always catch the question. Could you
Okay.
repeat that in a brief?
Yeah, Desiree, could you speak into the mic a little bit? Yeah, thanks.
Can you guys not? Is that better?
All right, don't talk across the council floor, please, but I do appreciate that.
Yes, I was told that you guys had 2 meetings set up, and for some reason they were canceled. I think a lot of our council representatives would like to understand and know what you guys do, and if you guys had presentations, we would like to attend. What happened on those 2 meetings? What?
Okay, well, we didn't follow the process. There's a process by which you have to go, and it's like just another layer of federal policy. The federal government has so much of that stuff. Well, I think our small tribe is kind of following along that same order. You have a process to follow, and if it just gets cut off. And so, unfortunately, we did want to have community meetings to explain to people what HPO is all about, what our goals are, but that didn't happen. And so we're ready to keep trying until we get it right.
Okay, is there, Chair,
Yes.
is there procedures that need to be followed to set up a meeting for HPO to educate our people, educate our council on some of the things that they're doing, some of their projects? Like he said, they had 2 meetings set up. Is there procedures that they need to follow? Can you expand on that?
I think the process is basically, when you're wanting to do information, you promote it in that way. There is what we call federal responsibilities through a THPO, a TIPO, and we do get funding from the National Park Service for a portion of the budget for HPO. So there is a federal responsibility to be able to consult and to engage conversations, as Mr. Franks knows, with military bases and any areas of interest that pertains to the Seminole Nation. So there's a federal responsibility, and then I think over the years, there began to be an attachment, and I believe that is a good thing at the local level, that there's things that our people expect to come out of HPO, such as not only cultural retention to some extent, textile, the arts, beading classes, moccasin making, whatever it might be. But I will say that was not the total goal from the federal standpoint. So there's an array of responsibility to HPO as it developed over the years with the Seminole Nation. Now, I think it can be both, and I think it should be both. And you find that balance. But you have to live up to your federal side, because there was times when we had other HPO directors that they lived up to the federal side, and they traveled a lot because that was required of them. But people said, hey, they're traveling a lot. Well, that's required of them because, they get that federal funding to be able to correspond and consult with the military bases, or when someone discovers some things that, and Wayne, you went to an event not long ago that was about that, So we had to have representation, and Wayne, as a member of the band that he comes from, they were directing some issues that pertain to his band. So he requested if he could go on behalf of, could he be there? And of course, executive office helped him get there. But the thing of it is this: yes, there's an array of responsibilities in HPO. I think from one director to the next, there's probably different expectations from our citizenship and from, of course, the tribal council. But I think probably when he has a meeting, we used to send out a kind of the federal responsibilities 101 a few years ago, just to bring the council up on what are the responsibilities of that office on the federal side. We know what we expect on the local side. we want that to continue, you know, as we're able to make it continue. But as far as a meeting,
Right.
does he need an act of Congress to have a meeting? I don't believe so.
So can we set up a meeting so the Historic Preservation Office can educate our people, educate our council people? Because if we're not Seminole and we don't know our history, who's to say the federal government's not going to come in and say, you don't know your culture, you don't know your language, you don't know your history, you're just like us. And that's one of the things that I am really adamant about, is educating our people. We need to know where we come from. We need to know our rights. We need to maintain our sovereignty through our culture and our language. So this is really dear to our nation. And if we can get a meeting, that's what I'd like to see, if we can get a meeting.
When you're talking in that context, I think it's a context of what we call the resource. We used to have, you know, kind of an umbrella of historical resources, or the overall encompasses of language, of historical preservation, and then they all have a contribution that they do to be able to accomplish just what you said. Yeah. So
how do
I think we can pull them all in.
Okay, so
you know, for a
so
meeting.
are you talking about having a meeting with the language, historic preservation, all in one meeting? I mean, that's fine with me, as long as we get educated, we educate our people. And
Yeah, because there's things that language specifically does, and they have certain areas that they're focusing on, or maybe new projects that's coming up. I mean, here in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see a mobile unit. I think it's going to be 33 foot in length, but it's going to be totally wrapped to represent us, the Seminoles. That IHS is coming out, and language was a part of that. When we were conducting that, there was some other speakers that was also involved in it. And we represented a time period of our history, which many people might look at this mobile unit and say, why isn't there patchwork on this thing? You know, but there's no patchwork on it. There's actually early period beadwork that's on it. It's going to be beautiful. I can't wait for it to come to the. But that took a consortium of many to make that happen. And the same thing, what you want to be informational wise, I think we can pull it together. Jeremy, you and Ted work together to put together a meeting, and we can have some refreshments, and then we'll invite the council and, of course, our citizenship as well.
I think what we'll do is, in the month of June, we're going to attempt it again. We're going to ask permission, however many times we need to have the community meeting, and using one of the tribal community buildings. And hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that in June and begin the process, because we do have a lot of information to share. Now, those of you who have not visited the museum lately, we have a exhibit over there right now, and it was on Miccosukee Academy. And we were fortunate to gather a lot of photographs that have been unseen. You've never seen these photographs before. And we brought them up, we set them out, and we had Dr. John Truden, who assisted us in the research. He sent us a lot of information. He sent us links. He shared with us some of his techniques and methods and how to find and research things. And so we would like to get him to also do a workshop for anybody that might be interested in that kind of thing.
Okay, any other questions for HPO? And I know people are looking at their watches and say, let's.
Sure.
Nancy?
I had someone that told me to ask, when are you going to do Oklahoma Seminole history?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
They wanted to know when you're going to do Oklahoma Seminole history. Oklahoma Seminole history.
Yeah.
They wanted you to, when you're going to start doing that?
Yeah, and that's what we'll be sharing mostly. That's what we'll be researching mostly because we've done a lot of research on the removal already, and we have information on that. What we don't have is we don't have a lot of history on the period whenever we got here in Indian Territory. The Civil War, for instance, the Seminoles were involved in that war. We were drug into it. And one of the things we thought was really important to learn was about Apostle Yehola, who was leading, trying to get to a safe spot, and they had to fight 3 engagements with the Confederacy. A lot of Seminoles were killed, and the sad thing about it is it was Seminoles killing Seminoles, because we had some Seminoles fighting for the Confederacy, and we had some on the Union side. And so we hope to share a lot of Oklahoma Seminole history, because there's a lot of it that it's just not out there.
What up?
Let's see, Lottie, Wayne, did you have your hand up as well? Representative Shaw, I mean. Representative Cootie?
One of the things I wanted to ask is, do you have any plans as to how we're going to save our language? Like you said, a lot of our...
I'll have to get close, I'm sorry.
Do you have any plans as to how you are going to save our language? Because there's very few people that I can communicate with as far as our language goes.
Yeah.
And the reason I see, looking around, the young people don't speak it, because if you're going to educate the younger ones, you have to teach their parents how to speak it. They don't speak it. How many, if you ask this audience, ask them how many speak the language. Maybe you'll get 10 out of this bunch, but to me, I don't know how we're going to be able to save our language, because a lot of them will, don't speak it. And when I started school, that's all I knew. And for that reason, I didn't teach my children, and I regret it, because had I taught them, they would have learned the English language as well as our language. But I didn't do that, and they wondered why I didn't do it. And I had a hard time in school. When we have recess, the girls would look at me and ask me a question. I didn't know whether to say yes or like this. So it was tough for me, so that was my reasoning. But now when you look back, you should teach your children the language. And so also, one of the things that I see with our tribe too is the patchwork didn't come from here. It came from Florida. When growing up, I grew up around ceremonial ground. My uncle was a medicine man, my aunt was too. And I never saw somebody said, when we had ceremonial ground, the man folks wore vests. They didn't go there until, they wore vests, they had to. And I argued with them because I said there was no patchwork.
Yeah, the way we understand it, there was no patchwork up here
It
till
comes
the
from Florida
20s.
when the missionaries or people like me going down and learning how to do it. But, I mean, a lot of young people that we're teaching them that's part of our culture, and it's not. We got to teach them the right way. So that's where we need to begin. And so, I mean, a lot of young girls, they're wearing patchwork saying, oh, I like that. This is ball diamond because I like to play softball. That one year, the Florida Seminoles came up here, and the princesses and all that, and their chaperone, they heard one girl saying, my clan is this, and pointed out to her design. And they asked me what they were talking about, and I said, I have no clue, because down in Florida, they don't have clans.
Yeah, and that's the thing we're going to all agree on, is that we need to begin the process of educating our community on a lot of things.
I appreciate all the comments that's in the dialogue going on. But let's keep this moving on. Wayne, did you have, Representative Shaw, do you have a question?
Mr. Underwood, have you received anything from Auburn University about the Siwatli and Wasatch bands?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The Auburn University is having, what's that called out there? Kind of like a symposium like they're having out there. And they've invited 2 Seminoles. They'll pay for 2 Seminoles to come out there and come back. They're on a reimbursement. Have you heard anything on that?
We don't always get notices, but whatever we do, we're open to.
Well, as an individual, I got it on email yesterday that invited me to come out there and invited Mr. Petit out there and, one more. I can't remember who the other one was. 3 of us. Oh, Yehola, Ben. They invited 3 of us out there, of which 2 are Seminole and One Creek. They invited us to come out and, I guess, speak history. I don't know.
Is that the one you went to in Alabama?
No, that's Alabama's
Okay.
a different one. This is Auburn University,
Okay.
the university itself.
Yeah, he can check his email, see if he got the same message you got. You got it yesterday, Representative
Yes,
Shaw?
I got it yesterday.
Okay, and-
Now, another question is, when are we gonna start getting a museum for ourselves? There are museum grants out there, no matching museum grants. How come we don't have our own? We have to depend on, Wewoka, and I don't like the one in Wewoka for the simple reason they use our name, and we got nothing in there except for patchwork made by non-Native Americans and stuff.
I think that's better addressed to the council. The council's the one that will pull the trigger on that, having its own museum. And they can assign, the administration can assign the grant writer to identify the type of grant that you need and begin that process.
Yeah, but if there's no match, then our administration is failing then. If there's no match, then our grants writer, that we have a grants writer over there, should be pursuing that grant if there's no match, because we give them leeway to give someone, what, $25,000 match, I think is what we give them. So, that's not being done now. Another thing that came to mind is that, are we in compliance with our federal programs?
Are we what?
In compliance with our federal programs?
Oh, yeah. We make our reports every quarter, and they let us know if we're out of compliance with something.
Well, I hung around your office quite a bit for the last 3 or 4 years. When Mr. Franks was in there, and since you've been in there, I come down there and speak to him. We do not have a committee. And to be in compliance with one of the federal programs, I know you have to have a committee to be seated in there, because right now, if that should come down and say, who's your committee, you can't just say, because the council has not seated anybody on that. Committee needs to be seated so we are in compliance with that federal grant, because I don't want the federal coming down here and taking what little money we can get from them to run our offices.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with which federal agency you're talking about. A committee is not a bad idea, but I don't think that anyone is requiring that of us at this point. One of the things we want to do, Wayne, is we want to establish an ordinance, a cultural heritage ordinance that will identify what a sacred site is, what a historic site, and line out all of the different responsibilities. And in that ordinance, if the council wants a committee, then they can put it in the ordinance.
I know several years ago, this is before Jerry and us got into that little ruckus up there, we had to have a committee, because Eula Dunking set up our
Well, maybe if you
program.
don't mind, you can email that to me, because
Yeah.
I'm not aware that who's requiring
Okay.
that of us.
Okay. I'll do
Okay,
that, but
Wayne, I'm sorry,
I'm gonna ask that,
Representative Shaw,
I'm
yeah,
gonna ask-
we're not supposed to address each other by our first
well,
names, by the
anyway,
way.
I'm gonna ask the
But,
administration to,
I know what committee that's on, because the committee you're speaking of, I was on that committee.
yeah, I knew we had a committee.
It's a NACFRA
and
committee.
they told
It's
us-
NACFRA. That was the
Yeah,
NACFRA back in,
committee.
in
We
the
had
early,
to have that to be in compliance.
in the
at one
early
time.
1990s. We had a NACFRA
And
committee.
that's not changed a bit. They've not changed that law, so he just gave you what it is. Now, I'm gonna implore the, administration to go ahead and go after a museum grants, because we need it. We got stuff down there, that trip to Florida, Alabama. They got Osceola's ear bulbs. They have that piece that holds your pants legs together down here. They've got things like that down there that belong to the Seminole Nation. They say, oh, that's Osceola's. Well, Osceola didn't come to Oklahoma, but he didn't die in Florida either. If you want a little history, Osceola's people are right here in Seminole County and right over in Hughes County over there. That's the Powells over there. They're direct descendants of Osceola. So that, if anything, that should come to Oklahoma with them. So therefore, I just want to drop a little bit of history on you, but I don't think we should be giving it to Seminole Tribe of Florida because Seminole Tribe of Florida said, well, we want it because it was Osceola's. And we got a bunch of people named Osceola. Well, we got a bunch of people named Harjo too, but we don't get nothing from it.
All
But,
right, let's,
that's the reason I'm asking that you have your grants writer get after this museum stuff, because it's something that's direly needed. If nothing else, get us a building down there we can put our archival stuff in, even, what do you call that, climate control.
environmentally controlled.
We need one of them for our nation. He's wanting to build history, he says, but how are you going to build history if you don't have nothing to teach with? I can't say, well, these were, I've got a picture over here, and these were his earballs. I really felt great when I stood right there, and I didn't touch those earballs, but they were right there in front of me, and I got to see them. And there are a lot of pottery there that I saw that
Okay.
should have been archived, that we're
Thank
not
you.
doing. So I
Thank
want to
you,
go forward
Representative
with that,
Shaw.
but it was a mother.
Thank you. We do have an array of directors here too, as well, besides HPO. Representative Franks?
Yes, just for clarification on those issues. Auburn University, well, let me just tell you, I was the former director here at Seminole Nation in Historic Preservation, and I'm now the director at Flaco Tribal Town. So we get consultations and invitations. A lot of the museums, universities are housing our ancestors and their funerary objects. And the one that they're referring to is Auburn University. So they have a large collection collected from all over the southeast at these different mound sites. When excavations are done and things like that, people find them, donate them to the museum. Some of them were looters and things like that. But they sent out notices to all the tribes, and they're inviting 2 members from each tribe, which they'll reimburse their travel expenses to go to Auburn University on June 26th, so about 3 weeks from now. And that'll be from the 26th through the 29th. And the other issue, as far as that committee they're talking about, that's a requirement of the National Park Service grant. And when I was there, Brigida put together that manual, which is over in the HPO office on a shelf over there somewhere. But it's called the Elders Review Committee, Elders and Cultural Review Committee. And when I was at the HPO office, it was during the COVID crisis, so we got permission to do a downscaled version of that, and I invited 3 elders, 3 very prominent past leaders in our community, and we had it outdoors, trying to meet all the restrictions of COVID and under 10 people. And at that time, we actually met with the language department at Pumahaga, and we were just basically, that's designed as an advisory committee of our elders. And so while I was at the HPO office, of course, under COVID and limited visitation and things like that, we did have a couple of them that were there quite often that I consulted with. But that's actually a requirement of the $65,000 grant that we get every year from the National Park Service.
Okay, we want to move on because we got limited time and we still have business to conduct. Representative Hill. this is directors.
Is he talking to me?
No. Are y'all finished with HPO then? I think you are. Thank you, Representative Underwood. I don't believe the compliance officer is here. Is there someone else that's some other department? Human Resources? Yes, Autophage, Miss Autophage, Angie, if you would, come forth. Come forth. Hey.
I don't know what he's.
No, you're fine. You're fine. They dismissed you. Thank you, Ted.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. That's it. You've heard of the hot seat. This is a hot mic. It's warm, isn't it?
Stongo, Angie Adovich, Jehochevkados. I'm Nemana. My name is Angie Adovich. I'm a member of the Comanche Nation of Oklahoma. I am the Human Resources Director for Seminole Nation. How may I help you? I know. No.
Gotta back off from the mic just a little.
You can request that from me. I usually put it in the quarterly report. I break down the number of employees and the new hires, the terminations, the layoffs, or anything else. And I also include natives, non-natives, and tribal members. So I can start including, I did put that in my previous reports, but this last one, I was kind of in a rush, and I did not put it there, but I will continue to put it back in our report.
Chair, can he use the mic?
There is one there. I don't think it's on, Representative Hill. There it is. It's on now.
Testing. Okay. My one question is the compliance officer for the nation, okay? Like I said, it's coming from the people, the tribal members, and the tribal employees. I understand the compliance officer has not been at work for 14 months as of March of last year. Okay? And my question would be, under what circumstances where he is authorized to work out of his house since March of last year up to now, present, which is about 14 months, you cannot tell me a person can work out of their house 8 hours on a lab and getting paid every 2 weeks. You know it as well as I do. There's no way in the world a person can work 8 hours, maybe 2, 3, 4. How do we know that he's working? Yes, maybe he is using the laptop, etc. But for a director to be out 14 months, if that's approved, if it's from the executive or wherever it may be that authorizing him to be away for that long, then we got 30 directors in the nation. Then it should be fair for each and every one of those directors if they want to work at home and work from home.
I agree with that.
Not only one person, okay?
I agree with that. However, I will defer that question to executive office as I am not over the compliance officer. I will let executive answer that question.
Compliance officer actually fulfills
Okay,
his...
first of all, Mr. Chair, if you're going to answer for that question, you're going to have to excuse yourself as the chairman and go on the floor.
No, because I'm not
as assistant.
debating anything. I'm answering a question.
You're answering for him, though.
I still don't think I'm debating.
Well, all
I'm not-
laws are broken, so go ahead.
Yes, I'm not debating an issue. The compliance officer fulfills his duties under the code, and he's not a director. So actually, he wouldn't be here today because he doesn't hold the position of a director. But he is to oversee all of our areas of compliance with 638 and other areas. And he's very, very active on a daily basis on those in that particular area. So as far as fulfilling his work, getting what we would call a good appraisal, he does his work. Matter of fact, almost every grant that we do in the Seminole Nation, which we've received more funding than any other administration in the history of the Seminole Nation, nearly $40 million the first year of this administration. he has a part to do with it, along, of course, with our budget officer and our chief of staff and so forth. So he fulfills his duties. Now, we did have a talk once COVID was lifted on the 11th of May about this very issue. So definitely executive is addressing this.
So if 2 or 3 other directors came to your office and requested to work from home, would you allow that?
What is their scope of work is what, executive would have to take a look at, and what were their specific circumstances during the COVID pandemic, obviously. Right now, it doesn't warrant it at this particular time, simply because that has officially been lifted, at the national level. So we're fixing to open up even the OAP office here in the next few weeks and have congregate gatherings again. Obviously, COVID is not gone. I mean, we've had a few cases, right there at the complex in the last month.
So if it falls on you as an executive staff approving it as a chief of the nation, then you must know the valid excuse or the reason why he has worked for 14 months at his house, right?
Oh yeah, and that's within the auspicities of the executive office to do that. He is not a director, and therefore he's not here today because he's not a director.
That's what the people wanted to know, so I'll put the word out. Thank you. Mado.
I'll tell you what, some of these directors that ask for compliance issues, they'll tell you right now they get an answer immediately whenever they have a compliance issues. But I can understand the thought of, one working, from home. And that was a common thing during the height of the pandemic. Of course, it's not at this point anymore. But some of the directors couldn't function if they weren't, in their office.
And also, Mr. Chair, is the chief of staff, is he considered as a director also?
No.
No?
No, he's not.
So how do we ask if we had questions for him?
Well, we're right here. We're in the directors. He's not necessarily a director over a program activity. He does assist, the programs in a lot of areas, especially in the areas whether something can be done. He works with the budget officer a lot with any kind of modifications, and I think they would vouch for the chief of staff as well, because he has helped them along the way. I mean, even tribal courts, which we are 2 different branches, but we've met with tribal courts on issues and even grants that's being applied for and things of that nature. We try to function as best as we possibly can, and I think we do have a good staff, and I want to applaud
Well, how
them.
could we ask him a question directly to him?
Well, he's not necessarily a director, and that's what this is about. That's why we put new business under directors here. But, if that's what the council wants to do, he's here today.
I would like to ask him a question if he's here and if you allow him as a chairman.
Well, Russell's here. Russell, would you come forward, please?
Mado.
She's just glad to get down. Yeah, this mic is hot. I don't know if it's the battery or what.
Yes, sir.
Make my question very short, too. It ain't going to be no 30-minute talk. So just about a month ago, they had a graduation for the Indians within our county, and they had this thing at Kelly Haney's building. And my question to you would be that I was trying to find out, the people want to know how much money we had spent on the graduates pertaining to getting supposedly a Pendleton blanket, which I heard it was too much, cost too much, so they had to go to Walmart and get a blanket. But anyway, I heard they got $100 paid for each graduate. But anyway, and I talked to the Seminole State College vice president and ascertained how much did the Seminole Nation pay overall for all the money pertaining to the graduates. she told me that we pay $250, they rent the building for $250, which the Seminole Nation paid for. I said, what about the rest of the stuff and all that, like food, et cetera, and all that? She said, you have to contact this lady. She's doing this as a coordinator, and we'll give you all the answers, how much it costs total. I said, okay. And she said, would you like to contact her? I said, yes. She gave me her name and number and said that you can call her at any time. I said, okay, thank you. That afternoon, I called this lady that works for the Seminole Nation, the number I was given, twice. I left a message for her to call me to find out information. Say about around 30 minutes later, after I left a message with that lady who was still employed, she supposedly went to you as the chief of staff and told you that I had called and this was my request, and she gave the information to you to tell me, and supposedly you as the chief of staff went to the council secretary and gave her the message and told her to call me. And you turned around and walked away because she called me, and I said, where did you get the message from the lady? She said, no. I said, well, where did you get the message? The chief of staff. I said, where is he? He just left. I said, would you mind giving the message to the chief of staff and the lady that's supposed to know all the answers pertaining to how much it costs? And supposedly she did. Did she know to this day, y'all two never call me? And my question to you would be, why would you want to pass on a message to the general counsel secretary for her to call me when I believe we speak the same lingo, English, number one, okay? How come you didn't call me and tell me?
I had from what I know, the general counsel secretary is just the liaison between the legislative and the executive or the administration. So whenever you contact the administration, I figure everything goes through her, and then whatever y'all ask her, then she can ask me or our executive secretaries. And then we can provide the information and give it to her and send it to y'all, because we don't know everyone's email addresses or contact phone numbers. So I would have just give it to her.
But I mean, yeah, is that all?
Thank you, Russell.
But don't be afraid to call me next time, okay? Thank you.
All right. Representative Petit.
We have someone from environmental health here.
You're talking about, yes, we do, actually, Ms. Summer Jennings.
Hello.
Stay on for a minute.
Yeah. Now it's the sanitized mic, not the hot mic.
Well, hopefully this is pretty brief. In June of '22, this council passed resolutions TR 2275 and 76 regarding the wastewater and infrastructure project for the Seminole Nation Veterans Center, which is number 76, and 75 was for the Mission grounds. Could you bring me up to date on what's the status of the, preparing some type of plan for those, the water and sewer infrastructure for those two facilities?
Which two facilities?
The Mission and the Veterans Center. This $2.5 million was approved for the infrastructure, water, and sewer, wastewater, I guess they called it, of this Mission grounds. Now,
Yes.
200,000 additional for the Veterans Center.
Yes.
Could you bring us up to date on what's taking place with that?
Okay, yes. So we have been gathering data and working with we're sending out a bid package for a design engineer to help us design the facilities. It is in progress, and we have to gather quite a bit of data, flow data for water use, occupancy for all of the buildings that are here, And we definitely don't want to get into anything that's over-designed. We want to be good stewards of the money that was appropriated and get the right facilities that are going to work for our mission grounds and for the Veterans Center. That's kind of where we're at. We're in the planning phases, but it is in progress. And we actually have been looking at a microbial solutions. It's really kind of neat. They put microbes in the existing lagoons that will go in and eat the sludge out of the lagoons to increase the maximum capacity of our existing lagoons. So we're looking at a partnership of that and building a new cell, but it's in design and data gathering phases.
When do you expect to have a resolution or a form sent back to you telling you what this is going to encompass? The cost and how the outlay is going to be for, like, I'm sure there's going to have to be water lines, sewer lines ran, you know, alongside what we already have existing or to a place on this grounds. And you did say currently, I think anything that we do should be with plan for the future on this facility.
I agree. So I believe cost estimates are going to be a part of the bid package. Whenever we get someone to submit a bid package on designing, that will also include cost estimates for encompassing the total. It's 2 different projects. It'll be 2 different bid packages, 2 different designs, 2 different estimates.
And to your, I guess, because you're saying it's going to be 2 separate deals, will they not perhaps have a problem working together, those two facilities? Because I've never understood why it wasn't just one whole program design. So if they can incorporate the Veterans Center into the mission grounds, everything, the mission house and stuff like that. And that's why I was always often kind of considering, why did we pass 2 resolutions there? Then it could have been one to entail the whole facility.
That question is actually, I did not have any, that's beyond my scope.
Above your grade pay grade.
Pay grade, there we
Yeah,
go.
there you go.
Above my pay grade on that question.
And she makes more than I do, so it must be above my pay grade. I'm just kidding. Any more questions? Representative Petit.
You said that before you can submit bids and stuff for that, will this council receive the copies of those bids and the design program that's going to be put forth by these people?
No, because that's not how the functions of government work. You're a legislator.
But the council, when I read this, directs and implements.
I mean, we can give you a report on it, though. We put it through procurement. They do the bidding process as defined under Title 14 of the Code and Law. But yeah, we'll keep you updated.
That's mainly what I need to know, because then we can deal with procurement.
Yeah, we need those lagoons. We really do, because we've got an expansion going on.
I'll go ahead and yield.
Okay, is that all for Ms. Jennings? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Representative McCoy,
JOM.
Johnson O'Malley. Council Secretary, if you would, go ahead and hand him that microphone. Thank you. Oh, what happened to was that the one she was using? Okay.
Mado Oklegra. My name is Marcy B. Harjo. A little bit about myself. I am the director for the Johnson O'Malley program. I was born here in Seminole County, born and raised here. I belong to Eufaula Band. I am of the Sweet Potato Clan. A little bit about my educational background. I have an associate degree from College of Muskogee Nation, American Indian Studies. I went and got my bachelor's degree in American Indian Studies from Northeastern State University, and I also got my master's degree in Master's of Science in Higher Education from Northeastern State University. I have 13 years of experience working at the college level and high school level, working as academic counselor, cultural specialist, and an advisor. I am the director of the Johnson Valley program, and to let you know, the program has come a long ways. For the past 2 years that I've been in office working with the JUM program, I cover 10 schools, 11 schools within the reservation. I have over 1,700 students within the 10 schools. This past April, we had an event in which we honored our graduating seniors. We had 120 graduating seniors from the 10 schools. Out of the 120 graduating seniors, only 80 seniors had responded to our RSVP, which was an invitation to attend the event. The event was held at Seminole State College. To fund this event, I did not use JUM funding because it is not allowed under the federal regulations to do this type of event. So what I did was I went and did a proposal, sent it to the National Gaming. They provided us with $6,000 for the event. The rest of the expenses were paid through the Tribal Cares Program, ARPA. This event was the first time that we've had one in a long time. And it's not about us, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the graduating seniors and how we can support them. And it's really important that we actually, support our educational system, because we have child care, we have Head Start, we have Johnson O'Malley, and then we have higher education. Out of the 10 schools that had been invited to come to this event, we had several that was on the honor roll. We had 11 schools, 126 graduating seniors. That's a correction on the number I gave you earlier. We had 31 honor students through the school, and the school covers 12 different nations, which means that there are 12 different tribes that attend our schools. So it's not just Seminoles, we got some that are Sioux, Cherokees, Choctaws, and that type. So we cover those services through our JUM funding that we give to the schools. Each school gets an allocation per month, or per year, I should say. And the Indian Education Parent Committee is the one that actually makes the decision of what kind of programs and activities we have for the schools. It's going pretty good. There's some of the Indian Education Committee is kind of slow in meeting. We don't have a quorum at times. So it's really important that I get the message out that we get parental involvement in our JUM meetings, because at these meetings, we only have about 2 or 3 people deciding these programs. And I have a few of the council members here who were on the JUM committee. And they understand, they know how hard it is to actually get parental involvement. So, that's one of the main things that we need to have. And it's getting awful hot in here. But, we're moving right along. One of the things that came out of my directing and coordinating and assisting the JUM programs is that one of our schools has been nominated for a national award through the Johnson O'Malley Association, and that's Kanawha School. Kanawha School will be getting a national award in October, or September, I should say, in Chicago, and this will be given to the school for the programs they have, the parent committee involvement, the community involvement that they have. I've seen it. I've been there. I've been at the JUM meetings. I've talked to the parents, the children, and they have a very good program. The thing about their program is that the school allows them to use their Title VI funding, which is different from the JUM funding, to do programs, activities, and cultural activities, or whatever the students need, tutoring, books, or whatever. The parent committee is able to make those decisions. The school works with them, and I think that's really, really fine. That's great. We have several schools that's getting to that point to where the collaboration between the tribe, the schools, is getting better. When I first started, it was like the coordinators, and I have coordinators at each school. Each school has a coordinator that works with me, the school, and we talk about how can we improve the academics of the children? What do we need to have?